Welcome to Darkly Lit, where you can take your time to wander the showroom floor and lose yourself in our vast digital presence. Where you go, Darkly Lit will always be there. I'm your host, Kayla King, and I am joined by my other two amazing co-hosts. We have Sade.
Tough titty, said the kitty.
And my other co-host, David King.
Available now from Orsk.
That's a pretty good Bronson Beam show.
Thank you.
So we just finished reading Horrorstör by Grady Hendrix. I would say this is a horror comedy. Like, I think that's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I'd say horror comedy, but the horror is actually horrific.
Mm-hmm.
I think the horror, some of the horror elements are definitely horror in that they're also a little gory. I think it's considered parody with the whole IKEA theme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I feel like wasn't so much funny to me. It just felt more like a horror adventure. Like I wanted to see this as a movie as I was listening.
Yeah.
Me too.
Actually, David, you want to give the summary real quick before we delve into this?
I guess I could do that. So, Horrorstör is the story of 5 people who inevitably get horribly stuck in a IKEA knockoff store overnight. But I'll start at the very beginning. That's the short version. The shorter version is that we follow our protagonist, Amy, who's a 20-something college dropout, kind of just working a dead-end retail job at the local Orsk in Cuyahoga, Ohio. She is not having a good time there. She doesn't take it very seriously. She's trying to avoid her manager, Basil, and comments throughout the story about how things at the Orsk have been going wrong since it opened about 13 months prior. It's weird little things have been odd, technical malfunctions, weird text with only the word help going to employees, things like that, or partners, as I should be referred to. This is very much an IKEA knockoff. IKEA does exist in this universe, but Orsk is its own thing. Eventually, Amy is approached or is called to the break room with Basil and another partner, Ruth Ann, and asked to stay at the store overnight in order to figure out why some of the furniture has been vandalized and why things have been odd about the store during the hours it's closed. Basil's hoping to use it to keep his job, and he's going to use it as leverage to not only pay Amy and Ruth Ann overtime, but also to potentially get Amy what she wants. This is a transfer back to her old location in Youngstown. While this is all going on, they're overheard by 2 other partners at the store, Matt and Trinity. Trinity being particularly important here because she's a kind of pseudo new agey type who's very into or at least bubblegum pop culture, very into ghosts, very into the idea of ghosts. And it's through them when they sneak into the store later to basically gate crash and try to film their own ghost hunter show, that we learned that the Orsk was built over the site of a penitentiary where horrible experiments were performed on the inmates by Warden Josiah Worth. The prison disappeared a long time ago, and the swamp which it rested on is now the home of the Orsk. As the night progresses and the characters get further into the story, they are also run into a homeless man named Craig who is squatting in the store. Even with all the nonsense going on, which is fairly lighthearted at the beginning, everything takes a turn when, with Trinity's insistence, they decide to perform a seance. The seance actually seemingly calls Josiah Worth's spirit out of nowhere. He takes over the body of Craig, who he promptly murders by slitting his own throat, and then shuts out all the lights in the store. From there, it just turns into a delightful series of misadventures where Amy tries to find her way out, but gets thrown into a torture chair, rescues Trinity from a torture treadmill. The order of operations gets a little crazy after this. Almost gets out of the store, goes back to rescue Matt and Trinity, watches Ruth Ann die as a result of her own fears and, being pulled into the darkness by the quote-unquote creepy crawlies. Has to go into a ghastly other world that is the echo of presumably the echo of the panopticon that came before, get Basil out of a death trap, and then get locked in a knockoff IKEA cabinet while water is rising around her, and then eventually have to swim away from a sea of rats. It's crazy. In the end, only Basil and Amy escape the Orsk, with Trinity and Matt presumably trapped somewhere in, not just in the store, but in the Beehive, the Panopticon, that ghostly otherworld that everything came from. When confronted by Orsk staff, the Orsk sort of like consultation team that comes in, they're offered a promotion if they keep quiet about matters. And Amy refuses, goes into a fugue state, and basically stops functioning for a while. Eventually, the Orsk is torn down, but when it's rebuilt as a planet baby on the same site, Amy decides she's going to go back and try and find Matt and Trinity, who are still probably trapped in that other world. And in a bit of a bittersweet but optimistic ending, bumps into Basil, who has thought the same thing. And the two of them, the story ends with the two of them venturing into the store, planning on finding the entrance and trying to save Matt and Trinity, this time better prepared.
Yeah, that basically covers it. Wow.
Yeah, I tried to be a little more succinct with it, but, a lot happens in this story.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. I'm going to be honest right off the bat. I really liked this. I've been wanting to read Horrorstör for a while, ever since I saw it at a public library and was just like, this looks like an IKEA cover. Wait a minute. And I look at the illustrations. One thing I can say is the book has some amazing illustrations in it and little like in-universe handouts for Orsk, for like just pamphlets and manuals and things like that. I especially love the chapters being framed as advertisements for different furniture. Chapter 1 is the Bruca, for example, the Bruca couch. When you get to where things get really messed up, the devices that are being advertised start to become the torture devices that the warden and the penitents have been using.
Yeah, all of us listen to the audiobook.
I believe that is correct. Which is a bit of a shame. The book definitely, I think, is an added layer. I didn't get to see him until after. My friend and I had plans that we were going to go to IKEA just for fun, and then the lockdown started. And I was very disappointed because I was like, I love things and I love meatballs. So maybe one day.
Yeah.
It's basically a retail Disneyland.
Yeah, it is.
In a lot of ways.
IKEA is a fascinating store. It is unlike any other retail store. And the book describes it actually very well. It takes you a very long time to get through it. Even when there's like shortcuts, you still have to go down the stairs, go around people.
The way it's described is very, very, very eerie in that it is like, yeah, I've been there. I've been to an Orsk, basically, because it's just IKEA, but with a different color scheme.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I could see it being extremely creepy at night. Like I do like one of the things I think I do enjoy about the book is the comparison between an actual horror of ghosts and such with basically the finality of retail and doing the same work over and over. I think all of us have worked in a customer facing job at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I have. Majority of my jobs, and there have been many, have all been customer service, and a couple of them were retail. They were probably the worst of all the jobs that I've ever had.
Yeah, I worked at both a restaurant and a store, or like a mall store, and God, I never want to work at a mall ever again. Strangely enough, it's not the customers for me. It's more like the pressure to like, no, you have to sell stuff. You have to keep on a smile. You need to be as polite as possible. You got to sell credit cards. If you don't sell 20 credit cards by the end of the day, there's something wrong with you. It gets very stressful. Like you have to put on like this persona.
You have to put on that customer service voice.
Mm-hmm.
God, I don't enjoy that at all because I do feel like my voice gets higher, and I don't know, just you kind of like lose a part of yourself, and you just kind of turn it into this like happy robot, and you're aware of it, and you can't really do anything about it except for maybe go into the back into like the walk-in freezer and scream.
Well, to be fair, you can see why the like philosophical parallel is put in there between a prison where people were grinded down to their most basic principles in order to make them more, to make them pure.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, it was, it's very literal versus metaphorical or spiritual, but it's all three of them. So it's just like, it's the parallel that's interesting. This banal big box experience with the retail workers and their drudgery is put on top of a place where very real drudgery happens, and the souls of those trapped in there trapped in that prison are so stuck there that even at the point when the warden is killed and they're told that they can be free, like they turn on the warden because of Amy's words, they are still just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm.
They still lock her in a lyra pit
because they don't know what to do anymore. Yeah,
that's something. I'm not gonna lie. It's in there, but I wish there was more of it in there. Because, say you mentioned like it turns into an adventure, and I think that's the part that I'm kind of like about with this book. Because I would have. There's like machinery that's in these chapters that never gets shown or brought up, like the crank, and it is said like Matt is supposed to work that crank over and over like 10,000 times. I would love to see him like maybe his hand taped down or like hold onto it in a horrific way, just continuously moving, and he's unable to move, but that never gets shown. And then there's this what was it, like the lullaby, or what was the phrasing that was used?
The globe looking thing.
Yeah, the littlebod. That globe looking thing looks so cool, and the description of it, a ceaseless rotational machine that harnesses a primal forces of nature and turns them against your body. If you're lucky, you'll simply experience vomiting and permanent brain damage. Where was this? This looks amazing. This never gets brought up.
That one looked like something, like if I saw that on a playground as a child, I would be so excited.
I'm with you. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get to see either of those two things. I thought it was like foreshadowing for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
The sad part is, I think the ending did kind of work. I mean, one of the reasons the ending worked is it left it wide open. Not that I want there to be a sequel personally. I think it's great where it is. It should just stop there because there's no way a sequel could work as well as this, in my opinion. That being said, though, a big missed opportunity. I felt like things ended realistically in that Amy, once she found Basil, was like, we're going to die here. We need to get out of here, you know? And it would have been weird had they gone back. But so I guess for a more like character motivation standpoint, it works. I think where my problem stands is that its climax felt very just, it was kind of over.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just over. And that's fine because I've complained about two big dramatic climaxes and other things that we've read. For example, Cemetery Boys, which I loved, by the way. I thought its climax was a little like, oh my gosh, it's a little bit too big and dramatic. But because this felt like it was kind of an adventure story, I wanted Basil and Amy to go back into there a third time and see if they could find Matt and Trinity and rescue them, or at least save their souls, what's left of them. But they're just kind of tossed to the wayside a little bit. We never even see Matt after he kind of gets separated from everybody.
Yeah. He's just like, oh, I have to go over to Trinity, and then that's it.
There's only one confirmed death too, and that's Ruth Ann.
Which was a bummer because that was the only character that I even sort of kind of almost liked.
At least her death was horrifying.
Yeah.
And just heartbreaking. I'll give it that. What did you think of this book, Sade?
I am kind of so on it. I did enjoy it in that it was kind of like a little horror adventure, and I was kind of picturing it in my head as a movie and shot in the same kind of like National Treasure sort of kind of gimmicky way. But I wasn't super invested. There were times where I was listening and I realized I was like not listening, and I wasn't too it was only like a few seconds that I would like lose here and there, but I wasn't invested enough to like go back and listen to what I had missed. I think only one time I did go back. So I'm kind of like, this was fun. All right, what's next? Kind of how I'm feeling about the book. So I do feel like I'm not super opposed to the fact that we didn't get to see like, oh, what happened to Matt and what happened to Trinity and like, why didn't we get to see those other devices? I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'm not angry. I'm okay. I'm not too disappointed, but also I wasn't that hooked to begin with either. So I couldn't be let down at the level that I was invested in, is I guess what I'm saying.
That's fair. I would say it wasn't so much of a letdown as much as I go like, I don't know.
I did definitely enjoy those elements where it was like, oh, she's like grinded her fingers down to the bones, and then she takes her eyes out, and then just the gruesome shit. Because I always enjoy it. You could just put a fucking 5-minute clip of gore on in front of me. Fine. So I did enjoy that, and that was cool. That was great.
I figured that'd be the parts you would like. I'm like, oh yeah, this gruesome stuff is definitely up Sade's alley.
And I do enjoy the parallels of working a mindless retail job where you're expected to just be mindless worker ants and then being dragged to this otherworldly place called the Beehive, where you're literally turned into a mindless drone, which is what corporate wants you to be. So that was
wants you to be.
So I was like, haha, yeah. And even with the penitents, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Who were like, okay, cool, we're free, but we're just gonna keep doing the same stuff, because it did actually get to me a little bit in that I thought of my mother, who has been working the same job since I can remember. Well, not since I can remember, but for a really long time. And just she has that mindset. She's of that generation that has that mindset that you are here to work the majority of your life. And if you worked hard enough, maybe you can rest the last few years of your life. And that is painful for me to realize about her. And that's what has become of these poor penitent souls. And well, not even they're worse off because it's going to be forever. Eternity.
Yeah.
So some levels of it, I was like, yeah, this hits home. This hits a level where it's that's deep. Okay, I respect that. But then on a surface level, I'm just like, okay, cool, that was fun.
All right.
Yeah. I can see that. I think for me, there's parts that I really, really like. And I think that's what makes it a good experience for me. I do like the writing. I think Grady Hendrix is a good writer. Now, I've read this twice, and I did read the book version first, and then now this time only listen to the audiobook. And I do still recommend the audiobook, because one of the interesting parts is they got Bronson Pinchot to read the Orsk parts, or the Orsk flavor, which is amazing to me. So for those who don't know who Bronson Pinchot is, he was Balky in Perfect Strangers. He's also in the movie Langoliers, as well as the gay guy from Beverly Hills Cop. Basically, he plays...
You don't remember who he was in Langoliers. I can clear that up for you in just a second, but I have to move away from the mic. Scaring the little girl! Lady!
Well, basically, he does the most over-the-top performances and just chews scenery, and I love him as an actor because of it. So to have him read these parts available now from Orsk, join the Orsk family, is just... I think if you know who he is, it makes it more amazing. He's still a good reader nonetheless.
Yeah.
But I do like that flavor text. I do like how there's that extra things about Orsk, and I think maybe it's better read as a book. I think maybe that's what gives it that oomph if you think about it. If you read it as the book, and I've actually sent you guys pictures of the different things that are added in there. Mm-hmm. It does amplify it. It does add a creepy flavor that I do like. And I do kind of like that language too, where it is double entendre. At the end of the book,
we never rest, we never sleep, and we're inside your home.
Yeah. It's supposed to be meant to be oh, look at how available we are. And then it's got that creepy entendre, that's no.
The way they read that, the guy who read that, it's really good, because it's you're used to that commercial voice and it's always sounds pleasant and cheery, but just change the words and it's still that pleasant, cheery voice, but it's like so unnerving because it's you get a sense of that corporate capital soullessness.
It's what it is? It's the retail voice. You know how because you said your voice goes higher pitch. I do the same thing. Hi, welcome to Orsk. How can I help you?
He's the commercial voice for sure. That's the retail voice.
He's got that like the showman's like the salesman voice.
Yes.
He's got the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. In just 10 minutes, the Main Street Electrical Parade. Like it's that kind of voice.
So, what about the characters? I felt for the characters for the most part. I like them. I felt for them.
By the end, the only three characters that I really got invested in were Amy, Ruth Ann, and eventually Basil, but it took a little bit for Basil.
Well, Basil I felt for a little early on after Ruth Ann had said, like, he's taking care of his younger sister. Orsk basically saved him, and I'm like, you know what? I've known people like this who basically appreciate a company who basically took them in and then they worked their way up through it. And it's because of them that they're like, I can actually feed my family.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they are able to easily put a smile on their face and they genuinely believe in the product that they're selling.
I was invested in nobody, which is probably why I was so with the book, because if I can't get hooked on at least one character, then I'm dragging my feet through the rest of it. I did kind of like Ruth Ann, but overall all the characters felt really one-dimensional to me, even when they were like, oh, Ruth Ann's a sweetheart, but she can fucking put you in your place still, or like Basil's such a fucking corporate bootlicker, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but he's taking care of his daughter and like sister. Sorry, well, practically his daughter. She's 9 years old. But yeah, I had a hard time caring about the characters. None of them were like boring or like annoying or anything, but yeah, sorry.
I can see that. Do we have any final thoughts, or should we move on to the questions?
Questions.
So, we did receive an email, by the way.
Woo!
Yeah.
What is our email? What is our email for listeners that did not know we had an email they can send their questions into?
You can email us at darklylitpodcast@gmail.com if you want to send us your questions or comments in an email format. Anyway, this one comes from Dan, or Urkelbot666.
Hi, Dan.
I'm going to
paraphrase?
Yeah, it's a very long email, but I will start by saying this part. Firstly, I want to say thank you for what you do. I'm a fan of Undercooked Analysis and recently started listening to Darkly Lit, seeing that you've discussed a lot of stories that I've read and enjoyed. In any case, this week I listened to a horror story on audiobook and I thought I'd get in on the discussion. So his prose is like, he loves the concept. Mm-hmm. He enjoyed the format. He also was ecstatic that Balky from Perfect Strangers was in the audio. He enjoyed the seance scene.
I did too, actually.
That was really well done.
The ectoplasm, I was like, man, I never see ectoplasm anymore. That I did love that touch. That was.
I was going to say, as someone who appreciates ghostliness, it was effectively gross and ghostly at the same time.
Now, for the most part, gross stuff is usually what gets me. Not like in a, oh, this scares me. It's like more of a queasy way. And this is the one part that I've ever read where it's like, oh, okay, that makes me feel queasy. But it works. It's really well done. He said he also liked the epilogue where Amy and Basil went back.
I really did like that part too.
And then he also liked Amy's inner thoughts as well, especially when she was in the restraint chair. I will admit, as someone with depression, I've had these thoughts. So yeah, that is, I will agree that is well done. As for the cons, he said he doesn't think Horrorstör earned its scares. There were scary classic elements, but felt like some of it was a bit for more shock value than anything.
Well, I feel like the part with Amy in the chair was what got to me too. Well, also her being sealed in the lyre pit. Those both tacked on the primal fears I have about being buried alive and or being restrained to the point where sensory deprivation and lack of movement.
He also said he wasn't too fond of the pacing either. He said after seance, things got kicked into gear, but so much was happening, he didn't feel like it was registering. So kind of like what Sade said, like there would be points where he would probably zone out and be like, oh, what was that? Oh, okay.
We were halfway through the book before we even got to the seance, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, it felt like once the ghostliness started happening, once the haunting started occurring, things kind of went go, 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 go. I liked the pacing up to that point, and then I thought it got kind of like, whoa, we're just going, and then like it could have spent more time, I don't know, giving us more to work with. I don't know.
He also said, what was the deal with the help text messages?
I could throw a theory out for that.
Go for it.
Just in that, like, well, one, like, you're already in a space where time is kind of difficult to keep track of, and then you've got this added layer of you're going into literally like another world or another dimension where how does time function there? So my theory is actually that those help texts that were coming from the beginning were actually probably were from Matt in the future, because time does whatever the fuck it wants. Time is not you don't get, you know what I mean, because you've started the world, so like the texts are just going. That's how I feel that little gap, but who knows?
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's one really cryptic way you could do it. I just assumed it was a way for the spirits in general, to reach out and ask for help. Because I don't know if they ever confirmed where the help texts were coming from, number wise.
Mm-hmm.
No, not the initial ones, not the ones before all the stuff started to happen, but then the ones after are coming from Matt's number.
And who's say what this was beforehand? Maybe there were other people who got stuck here.
Maybe it was Amanda Cohen who went missing.
I actually did look that up. Yeah, Amanda Cohen is the author's wife.
So
it's a cute little gag.
She still went missing though, according to Orsk. His wife disappeared in that universe.
I do like his closing statements. He says, in closing, I equate Horrorstör to having a threesome because your partner thinks it would be hot. In theory, it's really cool and exciting, but afterwards, you feel a little weird and confused.
All right, then.
Actually, thank you for commenting on this. It's great to hear back.
Thank you for the email. Yeah.
Great to hear
Thanks,
back.
Dan.
Yeah.
It's rad. I would equate it to the closest thing I can equate it to is making out on a bruca in the middle of a brightly lit store. So basically, Matt and Trinity.
Okay, here's our other questions. We got some questions from Bringer. Again, thank you, Bringer, for consistently bringing in questions. You've been an awesome listener. Do you think the people that didn't make it out are still alive?
More or less, I think, in my opinion, they're lost, like the penitents. They're trapped in that other world, in the beehive. And they're gonna, if nothing's done about them soon, they're effectively lost souls. Not really dead, but not really alive either. That's the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they're gonna end up like the penitents. Just hollow shells, you know?
I can see that. Yeah, that makes the most sense to me too, yeah.
I mean, already Trinity was starting to delve into that. His next question: did going through this experience help or hinder our main character, Amy?
Both. Because it fucks her up really badly psychologically, but in the end, when she goes back with all the stuff to she says, she tells Basil, where she says she has a hard time in it, but she wants to feel like she felt that night. She has a purpose now, but her purpose is to basically just get Matt and Trinity back. It's like I think it's double-edged. It's like, you have, in a lot of stories, when you go through an ordeal like that, especially a fantasy adventure, something over really extreme like this, where, you're swimming away from a wave of rats. You're going to come away with it. Maybe you're either going to come away with it Luke Skywalker or Bilbo Baggins. Bilbo just wanted to go home and retire at the end.
I think what it was is she had survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And it was sort of she in her bones, she knew that Matt and Trinity were still in there somehow. Like, she couldn't leave that unresolved. And I think it's a matter of it was survivor's guilt, and also that need of it's not over. You need that closure.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why she couldn't bring herself to do anything until she went back, Because she was all, I have to get everybody out. I have to get everybody out. But she only was able to get Basil out. So she had purpose that she couldn't fulfill until the store reopened as Baby Planet or Planet Baby or whatever.
Planet Baby.
I think that's, I don't know. So I guess the question would be is if making the assumption of maybe she does get Matt and Trinity out, is she then a better person after that and able to pursue other goals or another purpose? Or is she then again left with like, well, now what do I do? Back to Desperate Housewives, I guess.
That or she's going to be like, I'm going to go kill Tom Larson.
Yeah. So I think that one's hard to say without knowing the outcome of what would come next.
Was the homeless dude ever real, or was he always the warden? I believe he was real.
I believe he was real.
I think he was real.
I
didn't really talk about Craig, but he was there.
Yeah.
I don't blame him for wanting to skulk in an IKEA, because if you're homeless and
get cheap meatballs and
get to crash on a I don't know. I don't remember what the models of the beds were called.
Bruska?
Bruka was the couch, but
Bruka was the couch. Let me look at these pictures.
I don't know if they ever talked about any of the beds though. Or no, they did.
They did.
One.
Oh, it's
something movie.
It's a moosk.
A moose. Yeah.
Yeah, retreat to a private island where you can find the rest you need nesting in a cloud high above the cares of the world. That's it. Yeah, it's a moosk. Craig
and also had like a little bit of a story, but it just added to the silliness of the whole thing. I think Craig was real.
I think the character was just a means to an end.
Yeah.
We had to have a body count in this story. If it was just Basil,
story.
If it was Basil and Ruth Ann and Amy, it would have been kind of small. So they needed to add like 3 more. So we got Matt, Trinity, and Craig.
And then he commented, the novel did a really good job with visual stuff of a furniture store, as I've never been to an IKEA. And yeah, I think that's actually one of the strong points. It really describes IKEA very well, or like an IKEA-like store very well.
Mm-hmm. Like it's like you said earlier, say this is very visual, and I would love to see this as a movie.
Yeah, I think it actually would make a really fun like TV series, like mini series, because then you would like start each episode with like an ad for a different piece of furniture or something. I think that'd be cute.
So. I might as well just say this. This will actually become a movie.
Oh, snap.
So, well, originally, it was going to be a TV show that was picked up by Fox, or the Fox had ordered a pilot episode. And, which I'm not sure how great it would have been, but it was going to be produced by Charlie Kaufman, who he directed Being John Malkovich and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which, yeah, but like, I don't know.
Amy walks through Masonzik and ends up in a world where everybody is Amy.
But the project fell through, and it's actually now becoming a film instead. The film rights were acquired by New Republic Pictures. They already got producers, and then Hendrix will serve as an executive producer. Another thing, too, Grady Hendrix has worked in film. He actually has written 2 scripts. He co-wrote the film Mohawk, as well as the horror comedy film Satanic Panic. Neither of these films I've seen or had ever heard of before this. Anyway, we also got a question from Feng Shui, which actually, would there be any merit in a sequel, or would that ruin what's on its own a fantastic book?
I want to lean toward the latter. I kind of said so earlier. It's like got that open ending. Mm-hmm. And I want to leave it as an open ending instead of having to fill it in with a sequel. I feel like the ending helped justify a lot of it for me. I actually did really like the ending of it because it made it feel like it was going to be yet another adventure, a dark horror adventure, but an adventure nonetheless. Would it be fun to see? Maybe, but I don't know if it could be pulled off as well because now we know the mechanics of what's going on, at least to a degree.
I also feel like it would probably be better as a single piece. I think you could probably do something with a sequel.
Usually when I think of sequels, I think it's usually better with a different group of people for the most part in these type of things. Like, how would other people react to it if there was another store that was in place instead of like an IKEA-like store? I know that the newest one is Planet Baby, And actually, I sent you guys this picture because it's not on the audiobook, but in the book, there is a picture at the end that is supposed to be like a oh no situation where, it's the Planet Baby 24-hour sleepy time.
24 hours sale.
Doors open at 6 a.m. and stay open until 6 a.m. the following morning. So much fun. You'll never leave. Get it? So it's like, oh no, what's going to happen? Oh no. But I don't know. Like, I don't want to think of it like in an IKEA-like store. Maybe something like a Costco or... Could you imagine a horror story in like a Costco?
Oh gosh. Don't eat the free samples. Don't eat the free samples.
This didn't really get brought up, but actually I just thought of this near the end when the consultant team comes in and they're very, very quick to offer Basil and Amy promotions with Tom Larson's email scribbled on the back of a card as long as they don't talk to people and they're going to get everything handled. Do you think Orsk has dealt with this before? And the reason I say this is because think about it. If you're a giant retail chain and this is such an obvious sign that like the supernatural exists, how often does a mega corporation build something on a haunted spot and have to deal with the results and have to cover it up?
I feel like one of my theories that I took walking away from the book with Baby Planet or Planet Baby, whatever, is that it is owned by the same parent company as Orsk because like they have, the same spiels and whatnot in their training and everything. So if I were doing a sequel or like what I would see in my brain as a sequel is like, oh, there's all these like chain stores that are actually all connected to some otherworldly plane that have like manifested from like different things. And so like maybe you have another character at a store like across the country and they somehow end up in the same place and they run into Amy and Basil trying to find their friends. Or they run into Amy and Basil having failed and are trapped in their devices or something.
Ooh. What if every retail location that's is built specifically on a haunted spot, but it's not the same haunted spot?
Mm-hmm.
So you could have different portals to different horrible planes, not just the Cuyahoga Panopticon.
That would be fun.
I think altogether, my final thoughts is I do enjoy this book. I really do like it. But I think for the most part, it's due to how good the writing is and the flavor. I think some of the story could be a bit better. I think my least favorite part is the flood part. I'm not going to lie. When it got to the flood, I kind of tuned out.
I realized the part that I really tuned out was when the warden was preaching.
Mm-hmm.
I tuned out for a lot of that.
Like at the end?
Yeah, when he was like talking to Amy. I think if she was in the chair or something. A lot of that I very much tuned out, but the rest of it was fun. This was a fun book for me. With not my favorite book, definitely not a contender for my favorite book, but it's our first book of 2021, so we'll see what else we get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I still would recommend Mexican Gothic over this.
Oh my god, Mexican Gothic and Cemetery Boys, like. They will hold a special place in my heart forever.
This was fun. I will agree. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I think it has a neat premise and some fun bits. And for that reason, I enjoyed it. Is it a favorite? I don't know. We only just started the year.
Yeah.
But yeah. I tend to lean more toward liking it.
Same.
So, yeah. It was a fun start to an already stressful year.
Well, hey, on the plus side, at least we kind of anticipated it was going to be stressful. We weren't blindsided like 2020.
True. Very true.
Our next book we'll be reading is actually a collection of short stories. We will be reading The Secret of Ventriloquism by John Padgett. Yeah, go look into that, please, and read along with us.
If your local library has it, get that there too.
Always support your local library. They are treasures.
Or a local bookstore.
Or a locally owned bookstore, yes.
Support your independent bookstores, everyone.
Listeners, if you have suggestions on books you think we should read, you can always tweet that to us as well, or email that at us too. Hey, Kayla, what's that email again?
darklylitpodcast@gmail.com.
Hell yeah.
Do we have any things to plug coming up. Of course, listen to our other podcasts on the Creative Horror channel at creativehorror.com, as well as our YouTube page.
Well, as of right now, we'll probably have finished the Creepy Cooking Staff Writing Challenge. So if you're interested in hearing the results of that, which ran last year until the end of November, we will have a UCA episode up that gives the top 3 and, gives you the scoop, the real scoop on the winners of that competition. We had enough entries to make it justified, and I want to thank everybody for entering once again. We will have the results of that on Undercooked Analysis either very soon or right now, depending on when this releases.
I do plan to actually release Darkly Lit episodes on the YouTube channel. Hopefully by the end of this month, I'll be adding them little by little, so that way people can listen to them on YouTube. I'm
running out of batteries for this flashlight, so maybe we shouldn't blow out the candles, the vanilla scented candles that we have. Oh no, wait, I found batteries. Here we go. So should we try and cut through bedrooms to get back to the market floor?
Just as long as we stop for meatballs.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead and blow the candles out.
Good evening, intrepid listeners. This is the Pasta Shade, the host of Midnight Marinara, and this podcast is part of CreativeHorror.com, a network of podcasts and creators working together to build a constructive community of horror fans. For more content like this, visit us at CreativeHorror.com.